Hello everyone, that photo you just saw, it was me trying to see how many of my beech seedlings I could get into this pot, which I had for Christmas. You may or may not have seen the video I made called My Christmas Haul, detailing that I had some very nice large pots, amongst them this one, and I decided I wanted to have a go at making a beech forest. So I'm just putting a layer of bonsai soil on the bottom of this pot. It's not my intention, once this pot is filled with soil and trees, not my intention to move it from this spot, because I know that it's going to be a heavy thing. So I'm doing it in situ, and this will be its place on the bench. Maybe move it further forward, perhaps to nearly the edge, but you know what I mean. So anyway, there we have a layer of soil in the bottom of the pot, and I'm going to add to that, as I always do, some slow release fertiliser. Be fairly generous with this. I know there's an amount you're supposed to put per size of pot, but because this soil is very free draining, you're going to wash quite a bit of it out of the pot. There, so that gives the plants a sort of base to come from. So these trees, I had a label in one of the pots which said 2014. Now I don't know whether I collected the seed in the autumn of 2014 and the trees would have sprouted in 2015, making them 4 years old, or whether they actually sprouted in 2014, making these trees 5 years old. As you can see, they're quite slim. They've been pruned several times. I never thought of these being part of a forest, so I was trying to get trees with character in the trunk using the clip and grow method right from the start. And I have to admit, I was a little bit nervous about whether I'd be able to make a forest with these trees when they're, just all over the place. So I took Coop for a walk up to the beech forest at Wellington Monument, and I'll insert a clip of our trip in the video here. Apologies for the poor audio quality, but it was a very windy day. Hello everyone. I was a little bit worried with the beech forest I'm going to create that I didn't have tall straight trunks, which is why I've come up here to Beechwood around Wellington Monument just for a little bit of inspiration, and I feel less worried. As you can see, a lot of these trees are tall and they aren't straight. Well, no, I take that back, they are tall, they're not necessarily straight. There are some birch mixed in amongst the beech, but primarily this is a beechwood, and it's on quite a steep slope, which doesn't really matter in terms of the forest I'm going to create. It does give rise to these fabulous roots everywhere along the path. I'm trying not to trip over as I'm walking, I'm making you feel giddy. But yes, it's a pretty place. We haven't been up here since probably last summer. It's very muddy and slippy, and well, just haven't got around to it, as they say. So anyway, back to the forest making. One of the things I like about coming up here is it's quite steep in places, so I'm out of breath, and it's very muddy. Let me show you my boots. over the ankle deep in mud in places, but it's not a managed woodland. It's open, or this part of it is open to the public, and they will, or they do come out and they take out anything that is dead and dying and may fall onto one of the footpaths and cause an injury to the public. But apart from that, if a tree falls on the side of the path, it's allowed to lay where it is and let nature and fungus and woodland creatures do with it as they will. Trees seed where they will, and yeah, so it's proper woodland in a sense. Over there's more and more and more of it, but all that is off limits, private. But again, it's not managed, it's not planted in serried straight rows of trees for their timber with neatly managed laid out pathways between. Now this is somewhat wild, so, and I do love it up here. Anyway, sorry, rambling on. Okay, so yeah, having taken that little trip, I felt more emboldened to go ahead and do this. So I'm using most of the trees that I have. This one, I haven't decided what I'm going to do with this one yet. I really like this little kink, so I'm thinking I may not incorporate that into the design unless I feel it needs one more. Unless I've miscounted, that leaves me 35 trees. I think it's irrelevant whether it's 34, 33 or 35. Once you get up that number, odd evens don't really make a lot of difference. So I've separated the trees. So I've got the taller ones on this half of the bench and the shorter ones like these, and ones that slant in a particular direction on this side of the bench. My plan being that these shorter ones will go towards the back, and the ones that are leaning out to come out that side and that side. And so it's just going to be a question of trying to squeeze these in now, really. There are a few adjustments I want to make to a few of the trees. This tree, for example, I'm going to take off this shoot. In fact, and a tip I got from, always give credit, a tip I got from Heron's Nurseries, Peter Chan, when I watched him talking about creating the forest, was if you've got a tree that's got a lot of crookedity, is that even a word, crookedity? It's very crooked. You can turn it so that from the front you get the best, straightest possible trunk. So I will be incorporating that method as we go along. So I'm going to start with this one. This is the tallest tree, and yeah, crookedity is present for all to see. These are quite pot bound, but I'm not unduly concerned. I'm literally just going to tear away the bottom and spread the roots out. I'm not looking for anything too fantastic at this point. There are some nice roots, I will use them, and otherwise it's just going to be fitting them into the pot. because once the trees have become a forest, then the whole thing will be pulled out with a root base and pruned around the edge of the entire root base. So yeah, I'm going to stick this one, which is the tallest, near the front, just slightly off centre, and then we'll just go around as we go. So it's going to be a question of take a tree, see where you like it. I may have to remove the bottom of some trees, a bit of root here and there. For example, this one does appear to have a bit of a taproot, although it's been root pruned several times. So I'm going to find my scissors and take that off there. As I say, these will intertwine their roots together and all be pruned as one. And another chunk. Okay. So I may from time to time just cut one side of the root ball off or another, just to get trees closer together. I do want some gaps, but not always. So just going to take off a couple of pieces. I think I'm just going to get another bucket, an empty bucket, so I can chuck some of this old compost into the bucket rather than putting it all into the pot. So I'm just going to turn the camera off a minute. Okay, so this is taking a wee while, so I think it was wise that I turned the camera off and we just pop back every now and again to see what's what. So far I've potted in 15 trees, and I've had to give them a bit of a mist every now and again to stop the roots from drying out, as it's a sunny day. But I'm liking the results so far. Once I get the soil settled, I'll be able to make sure that some trees stand up a bit straighter. That one was just trying to flip over a little bit, and so that they're not, hopefully not interfering with one another. And so yeah, so you get the gist. So I'm going to crack on now with these shorter trees, and they'll be sort of working their way around the outside and to the rear, and we'll come back and take a look then. Okay, so just as I get to this point, my neighbour decides to start cutting his grass, but never mind. I've twisted the pot around so that you can get a view of what I've been doing. I decided I need to replace this fatter trunked tree with this slimmer one here, just so that we've got some of the larger, fatter trunks at the front. And I'm going to squeeze this one, if I can, into here. And it really is just a question of trying to plonk it into a place that's pleasing to my eye, really, where it's not interfering too much with any of the other trunks. And what I don't want is, as I said, serried rows. I've tried to ensure that these trunks are not in straight lines across as well as back to front, I hope you can see that. Have, generally speaking, got a dome. There's a couple of low spots and high spots in the back and the middle. That tree's interfering with that, but I can sort that as I backfill soil into the pot, and as we prune, then I can ensure that we gradually get that sort of domed forest in the distance shape. So I'm going to shorten that branch because that is going to interfere with the tree behind it no matter what I do. Yes, so that's time for some backfilling. Bred, grown for use as individual trees rather than as a group. I think they work well, and yeah, let me just give that a water in. I decided I can make the forest without this particular tree, and so I potted it up into this half seed tray, and yeah, I will continue to grow that as a single tree. Maybe we'll look in on it from time to time, but it won't be a regular part of this playlist, as this will deal with just the bonsai forest. Turn around so you've got a better look on there again, my forest. And it's just a question now of just to make sure that none of the trees are really interfering with one another. They're all growing as if they look as if they've been growing naturally, heading to the sky for the light. You know, competing for the light, each one finding its own space. Yeah, I think I might shorten this one slightly, like so, and I might shorten that branch like so, and it's just a question of every, you know, if you see something you think is going to interfere, take it off. I'm going to take off these lower branches here. I don't really want them. I want to have clear trunks at the base. I put all this together now, and I think it might have been nice if I put a couple of birch in the middle. But I'm not going to undo everything I've just done. But it could be in future years an idea of just introducing a couple of species. It would mean, you know, cutting the root ball up into several manageable pieces, but that's not impossible once the trees are all rooted in together. In fact, I believe that's, you know, relatively commonly done with forest groups. Yeah, so there we are, that's it, that's my forest. Interestingly, I filled an entire gallon bucket with the compost and roots that I've cut off these trees, and I've used an entire bucket of fresh compost to fill the pot. So yeah, it's going to weigh a ton, but I'm not going to move it very far from here. So thank you for taking the time to watch. We will come back and look at this tree perhaps in the autumn, when it's had a chance to spend a year doing its thing, and we'll see how it looks then. Thank you for watching, and as always, take care of yourselves.